35 minutes past the hour. This is the part of the program where the legislative branch meets the executive branch. Standing by is Atlantic City Councilman at Large Frank Gilliam Jr. on Ask the Mayor. Councilman, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Councilman. Good evening, Harry, as well as good evening, Mayor Guardian.
Good morning. Good evening.
I have a question. There was a letter circulating. Maybe we received it on somewhere around October 11th from the DCA. And we've been asked several times from constituents and everyone, really, what is the financial plan for the city moving forward, knowing that we only have less than 2.5 weeks before we can basically implement a plan?
Yep. I think, Councilman, tomorrow the council president is going to announce a special meeting that I'm calling that is going to give time for us to brief yourself and every other councilman to the full recovery plan that we're going to be presenting. And then we'll have a special meeting. They'll be open to the public. We'll have public input into that. But we'll be spelling out the entire plan, about 125 pages, very comprehensive, dealing with existing debt that we haven't taken care of yet, cuts, costs, the redirection of money from casinos, the state funds that are in place now, the early retirement plans, and together you'll see that we're going to be presenting a budget that's balanced not only for next year and the next 4 years, but it brings the financial stability that we've been working on for the last 120 days.
Well, one of the things that's baffling about the actual letter, as well as the numbers that you're spewing, is that I believe that you presented a budget that had about $106 million in aid and assistance from the state. But the draft that you actually gave the DCA only asked for $37 million, which, based on the letter, we're not even guaranteed to get anywhere near $37 million. So how are we going to basically balance our budget in 2 months? So we're still going to be like an $80 million short.
Absolutely not. So 2 different points. One is the recovery plan that deals with 2017 moving forward for 5 years. The other questions you ask me now is on the budget that we have for 2016, the budget that that I introduced to City Council and that was sent to the state legislature. When you talk about the $38 million, there may be a few $1 million less that are coming there, but we've sent a budget on Monday that explains that with savings that we've been able to accomplish through other departments from when the budget was already approved, that we're going to be okay there. And then you have to remember that as soon as the plan is either accepted or rejected, $60 million is freed up from ACA and almost $20 million from IATs from the casinos. We already have the $20 million from Compter from the state and $6.3 million in aid. And you know that we get about $11 million in Safer Grant as well. So that's how you're closing the $100 million budget to balance the 16 budget. But again, all of our emphasis with the efforts is how we bring back our city, we save our sovereignty, and we have a plan that's going to show a balanced budget with a surplus for each of the next 5 coming years.
So I'm hearing correctly. Based on some of the criteria for transitional aid, actually insists that you have a tax increase, or you have an equal levy or greater, or greater than 6%.
Yep.
Where are we? I don't understand how we're going almost into the second year without actually having a tax rate.
Right. So what happened is I responded very clearly to the director of local finance board, explaining that what they've done is in both 13 and 14, a 20% and then a 29% increase meant that our citizens had a 50% tax increase just in 2 years and a total of 85% tax increases in about 6 or 7 years. And so what we've done is we've paid those taxes taxes at 6% a year way in advance. We have to have now at least 7 years with no tax increases because we already met those standards. We had no tax increase last year with $100 million shortfall, and we're producing a balanced budget without a tax increase this year, and we have indeed told the director that we're not going to have a tax increase.
You had no tax increase last year because we were able to defer pension and loan payment.
Yes.
Pension and health payments.
You're right, $43 million.
But again, moving forward,
we paid it already this year.
Going into the fourth quarter,
yes,
you're still presenting council a temp budget when in fact you have refused to give the public a hearing on the budget. We've basically been hearing these various concepts, for example, like selling of the MUA.
Yep, that's tomorrow night.
But again, you're making those decisions without even doing any due diligence. You have not asked the public. You have not, as a matter of fact, what is the note on $100 million?
The note, I can tell you exactly. It's about $4.6 million on $115 million at today's rate based on tax-exempt bonds.
Okay, so if that moves forward in that direction, how will the city and/or the MUA be able to pay that bill?
And so
they would have to increase the water rates, correct?
They would have to increase the water rates for commercial customers, which, as you know, they have raised residential rates 65% over the last 5 years with no increase for commercial rates. So the water company is considering that kind of increase for water rates for commercial customers. And we also have turned them on to federal grants that will help them. Instead of spending $3 million a year on infrastructure costs, there's federal money that's available to cover the cost to provide water for residents.
Have you guys even done the due diligence to find out if that's apropos for the DPU? Have you done?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When you do those things,
yes,
it's very emphatical that everyone knows.
And
just as you stated that you responded to the DCA about a budget that you haven't even really discussed fully with council.
That's not true, Councilman. You received a full budget and you accepted it as an introduced budget and passed it on. Maybe you got to go back and look at the records of the vote.
I'm going to look at the current record.
Great.
The current record is that Frank Gilliam has been voting no.
You voted no on everything, Frank. I understand that. That's your prerogative. It's a free country.
No, you're not going to. You're not going to interrupt why I'm voting no.
No, I'm not.
Okay, so let me explain. It's not just a bare no out of ignorance or out of hardships. It's no out of not making any financial sense. Because when you're talking about taking $100 million loan, you're really just passing that $100 million debt onto the taxpayers of the city. And so now maybe their property tax won't go up as high, but their water bill is going to go up. So it still doesn't really prove that we have a clear financial plan as to how to get out of this, and we can't have shuffling games with the finances of the people. And I find it very disingenuous that we as a city does not have a tax rate, nor have been introduced, and as a matter of fact, if I believe if my reading serves me correctly, Judge Menendez is now making the administration have a public hearing when we've been asking for a public hearing for almost 2 years.
So, Councilman, the reason that we're in this trouble, as you well know, isn't the last 2 years or 3 years that you've not had anything to do with the budget, but the first 5 or 6 years that you did, the $187 million that you went to Wall Street and borrowed against and gave it to the casinos. I've spent the last 3 years trying to figure out how to pay back that debt and how to straighten out the city, even with the loss of jobs, even with the loss of taxes. And as I said, tomorrow you'll get the announcement about a special meeting that will present this recovery plan that will address all the issues you're talking about, including the debt.
So this won't be another kamikaze mission where we're informed the day of about these press conferences about these infamous ideas that's going to save us. And
nope.
When I look at the budget and I look at our plan,
yep,
it does not address our deficit.
And so,
and all I'm saying that is high time that we begin to look at our finances in a serious matter, opposed to throwing concepts that may not even be legal out as a part of the budget. Like, again, I'm confused as how much cash flow we have. Last council meeting, you said, well, we don't have any. If we don't basically vote for this budget, there won't be any payments or salaries.
That's
then
correct.
All of a sudden, we ask how much you have in the bank. You have $20 million in the bank.
Because
and then, okay, we asked the question, how much of the payments of the health and salaries was a part of that $20 million? It's 11. So
$11 million of $11.3 million, mixing up some numbers there. The first question he asked was to the finance guy, not to me. No, to the count.
Well, you're
Councilman.
not. You are the chief executive officer.
I am the chief executive officer, and that's why this week you're going to be given the time for this plan to be expected to you.
A revenue and finance director to give the people the real numbers.
Yep,
and not have two different sets of numbers.
No two sets of numbers, Councilman. You know that. You got the direct information. You asked what was being used for salaries, and you know it's 11 million of the 11.3 million, and six members of no, not out of 20 million. 20 million, you're asking about a cash flow. You're mixing balancing budgets. You're asking about operating budget, and you're asking about cash flow. And as you try to mix them all together, you confuse the people here. You're going to see very well. I'm not confusing anyone, and you'll see the plan as it's laid out to you and other council members clearly, and then you'll see the date that we're going to present it. We've hired the three financial firms that in the last 20 years have bought 50 cities and counties and school districts that were in dire financial situations out of the troubles that they're in. You couldn't ask for three better groups to represent the city. They've worked with the state before, and as you see all of these plans come together under one recovery plan, you'll see that this indeed is how we keep the sovereignty of our city to ourselves, to our residents, and how we have a balanced budget for the next 5 years so we can actually get people to stay here, to want to come and live here, and for businesses to move in here, creating jobs and additional taxes.
You have yet to answer the question. You have ditched the question for the last.
I haven't ditched. I answered every question. You change the question every minute that you speak there, Councilman. So ask me the question. You got it.
I asked you a direct question.
Ask me a direct question.
I asked you, did $20 million come? Did Frank Gilliam make that number up, or did Director Simpson?
Yep.
No, answer the question.
No. I'm not going to say that because that's not the $20 million. You were given a budget, a temporary budget of $11.3 million. The question was, what was going to be used for salary and benefits? $11 million. What was the other $100,000 used for? Was for everything else, from fuel and gas and heat. You got that all answered.
I'm glad that we have the ability to have things recorded, because
it's absolutely recorded, and you'll see $11.3 million is what was presented to you. $11.3 million is what was voted by City Council as the temporary budget to keep the city going forward. $11.3 million. I don't have it in front of me, but that's what we did just 2 weeks ago.
Well, I'll make sure the public gets the truth in terms of what the numbers are, and I think that it's very important as we move towards the dangers, closer towards the danger zone. It would be more ideal for you as well as my colleagues to include everyone. And it was also stated at a public meeting that we wanted to be a part of the process, and you still have basically shut.
Councilman, did you take up the invitation to meet with all of the committees and the firms that were there? Several of your other council members, I think all of them, actually went and spent the time, put their input. You chose not to. Chose not to.
Because we were used to you basically calling us in as a group to discuss it.
You know that you can only have 4 people at a private meeting.
Okay, 4 is a group.
That's correct.
Right? So
yes.
4 is a group. So, again, the way that we normally did it was you basically bring in 4 as a group and you discuss it as a whole. It does not fit well to have people meet singly when it's a group effort.
Some chose to meet singularly, others met 2 and 3
but
apart. You just didn't choose to be part of that, Councilman.
I choose to be a part of comprehensive things, not piecemeal. And again, this is another example of how you've piecemealed.
No, Councilman. What happens is we're trying to move forward because the city is in ruins, and we're trying to fix it. We're going to bring it back to life, despite all of the debt that was incurred in past years, despite the fact that we didn't trim the bloated budget and get rid of the staff and make good financial decisions. But that's what we've done for the last 3 years. And when you see this plan and everyone else, and the 125 pages that back up all of the points that I'm making, it'll be very clear to you how we move this city forward.
I wish you well, because I do want to see the city survive. This isn't about tearing you nor me down. It's about what one thinks is best for the city. This has been a healthy dialogue, but again, I still need to see a comprehensive plan opposed to piecemeal and giving us snippets of what's to come, when in fact we're at the final hour before we even get an opportunity to see what your recovery plan is.
Councilman, I agree. You will see the full comprehensive plan that brings the city forward.
Why don't I have it now?
Because we're working on the last numbers, but there's been press releases and there have been press releases that you've seen that make up the plan that already you know the money that's coming from casinos, the amount of savings, the number of cars that we no longer have, the number of employees we don't have, the 9 or 10 different services that we either went out to bid or request for proposals for. This plan brings it all together, but ties in the most important factor, and that is dealing with not only the bonded debt that we currently have, but the more than $200 million of debt that's not yet bonded and taken care of, and to make sure that we return the $30 million in property tax that Borgata should be paying each year, and the $5 million in property tax that MGM should be paying each year back to the tax rolls in 2017.
Councilman, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Have a great night.